Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. Tomorrow is Erev Shavuos, so I want to share with you a telegram. The Rabbi used to send the Western Union telegrams to many people before Yom Tov, especially I think before Shavuos. So here I have the telephone, the original telephone, telegram that the Rebbe sent right after the 6-Day War to President Shazar. And the Rebbe writes over here, the telegram is written in English letters, but it's Hebrew words. The Rebbe writes like this: Ichulei Chag Sameach v'Kabbalas HaTeirah b'Simcha v'Pnimiyus v'Likiyum ha'Havtocha v'Yishaftem lavetach be'artzachem v'Noflu Oyveichem lifneichem v'Hayisi lachem lelikim v'Atem tihiyu li la'am b'Chaved v'Kora v'Brocha. That the Rebbe wishes Shazar that the Chag, so a happy Yontif, Kabbalas HaTeirah, B'Simcha, and also B'Pnimiyus. Attached to this, there was another telegram here. I don't know what that has to do, but it was together here. And I know that when Rabbi Mindel puts things together in one pile, so it means it has a connection. I don't know why. It was also after the 6-Day War, to Chief Rabbi Medalia in Antwerp. And the Rebbe writes over here, also the letters are English and in Hebrew words. B'mane l'michtavoi daiti brura u'muchloto. The answer to your letter, my mind is clear and certain. Strong decision. She'asifas Yehudim, that the asifa, the conventions or the get-together, the meetings of Jews in Rome, Asura behechlet, is clearly prohibited. Kal v'chaimer, how much more so, Asifas Rabbanim u'Manhigim, the conventions or the meetings that the Rabbanim have a Manhigim. That means that in Rome, the Rebbe didn't want any Asifas, any conventions, any gathering between Yidden. This is a telegram with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe signs on this. This was on the same as over here. This was also, I think, Erev Shavuos. Now, Bichlal, Shavuos was always, Rabbi Mindel mentioned when he was by the Rebbe, also by the Frierdiker Rebbe, Shavuos was always like by the table upstairs where they ate in 770, the meal was it was like a lot of miracles, a lot of things happened. And I give you a mashal that Rabbi Mindel wrote down that he was there. There was a child, this was by the Frierdiker Rebbe, a Shavuos. He crawled under the table where the Frierdiker Rebbe was sitting, and he was under the table. He was about, 5 years old, 6 years old, 4 years old, I'm not sure. And this child, or he was born with a heart problem, or he developed a heart problem. He wasn't well ahold his whole life. He had a heart problem. Anyways, so he was under the table, and all of a sudden the Frierdiker Rebbe looks on the bottom there. What did he do? His shoelace, the Frierdiker Rebbe's shoelace, was untied. So the child saw it, so he went and he tried to tie the shoe. And he was tying, so the Frierdiker Rebbe heard it. Frierdiker Rebbe looked, and he gave such a smile, Rabbi Mindel says, he made like this, du sollst lang leben. You should live long. So this was a bracha that the Frierdiker Rebbe gave him, and Take, with his condition, he lived, Baruch Hashem, he's not here anymore, but he lived a long time. So this is one thing that happened, Shavuos over here. Another thing he writes over here, that Erev Shavuos, Tovshin Tes, 1949, there was a big chassid, Michael Dvorkin. Michael Dvorkin passed away Erev Shavuos Tovshin Tes. The Frierdiker Rebbe did not know. I don't think they wanted him to know. But there was a problem with his burial because I don't know whether it was a holiday or they needed a doctor to okay something. It was a big problem. They couldn't bury him. And they're not going to let the body 3 days. Shavuos is 2 days. So they were working hard and they couldn't, or maybe it was something on with the cemetery, I don't know exactly. But there was something there. So the Rebbe, our Rebbe, put a lot of keiches that he should be buried that day. So they needed a doctor. So the Rebbe found a doctor. His name was Dr. Ness. I think when I was a bocher, I remember him. He was sitting and learning Gemara. I think he was more London than a doctor. But anyways, he was a doctor. So the Rebbe asked him a favor. He should write whatever he had to write, I don't know what, in order to okay the kvura should be that day. And the Rebbe promised him, Imi bimchitzosi, you'll be with me in Gan Eden. Such a promise. So he signed and everything. This happened out of Shavuos. Now by the meal, Shavuos night, the Frierdiker Rebbe did ask, I was told, Rabbi Mindel doesn't write this, but I was told that they did ask, where is he? And I don't know what they answered him, but the Frierdiker Rebbe figured out that he's not here anymore. So this is Shavuos. Now here, attached to this, I want to read to you another letter. Before Shavuos, this letter was written by our Rebbe, Dalet Sivan, Heit Tovshin Zayin, in Paris. This letter was written in Yiddish, and he took the paper from the hotel. It says the name of the hotel, the Rebbe, and he sent it to Mr. Stillman. And we had quite a few programs about Mr. Stillman. Then the Rebbe sent this letter, and I have the original here. He gave me the original. Mr. Stillman gave me the original. He sent it to Rabbi Mindel that he should translate this letter to Mr. Stillman, and I'm going to read soon the translation of what the Rebbe wrote over here that Rabbi Mindel translated. Now, Mr. Stillman, we all know, we had already programs, he sent an affidavit to the Frierdiker Rebbe to bring him in America in 1940. Very much involved. I mean, there's a lot of stories about him. When the doctors told the Frierdiker Rebbe that he cannot see anybody, but he told Mr. Stillman, even though the doctor said, I cannot see anybody, but you, I will see. He's the one, if you remember, we spoke about the dinner that they had after a month at Malava Malka. He was one of the people that stayed. He was the one that gave the first money for the first building in Besrivka here, because on Lefferts Avenue. I was very close to him. He was sitting here. My children came from Church Avenue. They learned in Besrivka. They were in elementary school, young. And they came running to so Mr. Stillman asked them, what are you running? So they said, we have to go to the bathroom. What do you mean? He said, there's no bathroom in school? So they told him that in school, it's in the basement, not in a good neighborhood, it's wet over there, they didn't want to go, so they're coming here. Mr. Stillman couldn't take it. So he tells me, come tomorrow to my office. So I came to his office next day, and he gave me a few checks, close to $500,000 within a few months. And that's only for the new building. That was the first thing that he gave the new building, those checks. I have still a copy of those checks. So this is Mr. Stillman. the Rebbe wanted him to be Merkez, whatever. So the Rebbe, our Rebbe, sent him a letter. Look at beautiful handwriting, the Rebbe's. And he sent it to Rabbi Mindel, and I will read you what the Rebbe wrote. What Rabbi Mindel wrote to Stillman with this letter. Dear Mr. Stillman, Rabbi Mendel Schneerson, still in Paris at present, sent you the enclosed letter which he had written just before Shavuos. A translation follows. Now he's translating the letter. I have been delayed in Paris unexpectedly for a longer period than I had anticipated. Hence, this letter of Shavuos greetings from this city. I trust that you and all yours are well, and I wish you a happy Yom Tov. It is customary in most Jewish congregations to read the book of Ruth on the festival of Shavuos. This book tells us the story of Ruth embracing Judaism, and that David, king of Israel, the founder of the Jewish kingdom and author of the Psalms, Tehillim, was a direct descendant of Ruth. Thus, she will be the mother also of the greatest of all men, Mashiach, the descendant of David. Next paragraph he writes, from a Geyeris, a convert, to Mashiach. The lesson briefly is, by accepting the Torah, which is longer than the earth and wider than the ocean, given as it is by God, supreme and unfathomable, we receive supernatural powers which are also unlimited. Each one of us can and must, and the Rebbe underlined, can and must, bring forth his potential power into reality by taking advantage of all the opportunities and possibilities given to him, and thus he will rise steadily and unhaltingly to ever higher plans, thus fulfilling also the inner urge of his soul to carry out its life's mission and to attain its ultimate aim, complete communion with the Creator. Cordially regards and happy Yom Tov, and the Rebbe signs his name. And then Rabbi Mindel writes, Rabbi Schneerson is expected to return in the near future with kindness, personal regards. And the Rebbe was held back, and there was a reason there, which I was written here, but I cannot go into it. So this is Shavuos letter from the Rebbe, Dalet Sivan, 2 days before Shavuos, Hey Tovshin Zayin, Paris. Now one more thing I'm going to read to you, and the reason I'm reading it to you because I found this in the same pekel here. This was from the Freyendike Rebbe, a letter to a girl. Tov Shin Gimel 1903, Koi Soymar Lebeis Yaakov. Because they're going to read Shavuos, you read Koi Soymar Lebeis Yaakov. Hashem spoke to women first. Koi Soymar Lebeis Yaakov, Erev Shavuos Tov Shin Gimel. It's in English, and Rabbi Mindel translated this, and the Freyendike Rebbe signed. Okay. In reply to your letter, I was pleased to hear that you are a strictly Orthodox girl and wants to get married to a strictly Orthodox boy. However, I cannot approve nor give my blessing to your proposed marriage in view of the fact that the boy desecrates the Shabbos. even though unwillingly, a Jew must make every sacrifice for the observance of Shabbos, and when there is truly a will, God helps. May God grant your chosen one a good heart to begin to observe the Shabbos, and may He provide him sustenance without desecration of our religion, like a true Jew. And then I give my blessing that God grant you happy life. And then the Rebbe ends off the last paragraph that $2.50 was received in 1903. Tovshin Gimel, 1943. Those days, probably $2.50 was like now, I don't know, maybe $30, $40. Was received, and I handed it over to the Yeshiva Tomchet Mimim, and here is a receipt that got, and then Frierdiker Rebbe signs this letter. So this I found within here, and this has probably a meaning why it had to be dafke in this pekel and this Erev Shavuos. So this is what I wanted to share with you before Shavuos. And the Rebbe says, hopefully we should all have a happy Shavuos. I mean, it should be like the Rebbe said, and the Frierdiker Rebbe always said, it should be Kabbalas HaTeiro, B'simcha U'B'pnimiyus. Next week, we'll continue our weekly program.